We are back with another episode of this Red Wings franchise mode series in the aftermath of an incredibly disappointing loss to the Florida Panthers in the second round of the playoffs. On one hand, a massive step up, for the team. Easy for me to say. 54-win season, first time making the playoffs. We make it out of round one, but it's the way in which we lost to Florida that really has to leave you wondering, was that our best shot? Now, whether or not this team deserved to win 54 games, that is certainly arguable. But like I mentioned in the last episode, really for, the past two episodes or so, when we knew we were going to make the playoffs, when you get an opportunity like this in a Draft to Glory style series, you have to make the most of it, because it could legitimately be your only shot. Did we just blow our only chance at success in this series? Time will tell. There's a lot of pressure on this team. Obviously, accidentally starting Howard Lowe was a gigantic mistake that we probably didn't recover from. One could argue that mistake on my part potentially cost us the series, but you'd like to think Howard Lowe would have at least done something rather than be completely useless. Unfortunately, he was indeed completely useless. A lot of injuries, of course, added up, as well as Grand Rapids is going to the conference final. We'll follow along with them if they make the Calder Cup final. But the injuries adding up, Howard Lowe just not having anything to his game as the Grand Rapids Griffins fall short in round 3. Last episode didn't really go the way we wanted it to go. The Vancouver Canucks win the Stanley Cup. The Colorado Eagles win the Calder Cup. Intrigued to see what Vancouver looks like at this point. The 2032 Stanley Cup Championship going to the Canucks, going to the Couve as they beat Florida, who made it past New Jersey in 6 games. So we know what the Panthers look like, of course. But what does the team that happened to get past them look like? The Vancouver Canucks. Pettersson's still there, still a monster. Lampkin pulled Colson. Dylan Holloway, Robert Thomas, Grundstrom, Besser is still a Canuck to this point, which is pretty crazy. Then defensively, Bedrick Martinek, 28 years old, Jackson Lacombe, Owen Power, Caden Goulet, Robin Solomon, Anthony Honka, goaltender Terrence Yoshi, 85 overall, former second-round pick, Parlilia, also there as well. So, congrats to the Couve. In terms of the awards, again, back-to-back Stanley Cups there for Washington not that long ago. Of course, Chicago successful as well. Now Vancouver getting in on the action. So Cole Caulfield wins the Art Ross and the Hart. Jamie Drysdale wins consecutive Norris trophies. Thank God he's finally getting the acclaim that he deserves. Farabee wins the Lady Byng. The Calder went to a dude named Hodges. Pettersson wins the Conn Smythe. Garrison the Vezina, as well as the Jennings. You had the Masterton to a dude named Cormier. Any other familiar names? Caulfield wins the Lindsay and the Rocket Richard. And in the AHL, do we have any familiar names? Edgar Sasaki was top defenseman. That's about it there, though, in terms of familiar names at this stage of the game. So that will bring us to the draft. Very intrigued to see how this goes, as the Anaheim Ducks are big winners. Of course, we're going to have the latest draft pick that we have had to date. Hopefully, somehow, some way, this works out for us. But damn, I still just can't get over the thought of how I wish this was another playoff episode. It's Nikita Kucherov retires, Mark Scheifele, William Nylander as well. Some other big names there, but under 1,000 career points. Defensively, Morgan Riley, Matt Dumba, Shea Theodore, all broke 500 career points. And for goaltenders, we see Connor Hellebuck, Matt Murray, Dan Vladar, Ilya Sorokin. All call it a day. So, very intrigued to see how this draft goes for us. I'd be lying if I said I remembered exactly who is going to be on the board for us here. So, let's take a look anyway. We don't know the updated rankings at this point in time. So, let's see who we have. So, Allison was there from the Sioux, of course, but not available to us at this point. Whoops, didn't mean to go around that way. So, the top player that's going to be available to us, oh boy, again, how I wish it was Cam Allison. It is going to be, I was hoping that I missed somebody, Wesley Reimer. is the top player available to us. Yikes. And then Lewis Kearns. So we're going to just make it through this draft as fast as we possibly can. No real reason to waste time, I would say, as you get a look at the top three. A mistake there from the St. Louis Blues, taking Hanula, unless they really needed a center. So let's get this over and done with. Certainly not going to be as big of a deal for us, but Wesley Reimer is going to be the pick. Could have a decent starting overall if that physical category is as high as it looks. Chara comparison, good leadership. So I'm cool with Wesley Reimer. You know, is he going to be another stock? Potentially. You know, you talk about a former first overall pick who really didn't get that close to the NHL level, or at least locking down a consistent NHL spot for us. You know, again, that could be another player of that ilk as we get a look at the next option, which is going to be another defenseman. This one from the Flint Firebirds, Lewis Kern. Good defensive zone play. And not much else. Lewis Kearns is the selection. He is atrocious. I can't really sugarcoat it. He is not very good. Next up, in the OHL for us, oh boy. Oh boy, how, oh, of course Primo's not available. Bennett Brind'Amour. Come on down. You're the next contestant, the grandson of Rod at this point. Bennett Brind'Amour. Let's see what we have. He has that leadership quality. Medium bottom 6, 56 overall for Mr. Brind'Amour. I mean, it's better than our second round pick. Here in the fourth round, who is next? We're looking at Fawcett or Delmore. Ron Fawcett or Austin Delmore. I mean, Delmore's 17, so it makes sense. Let's just take Austin Delmore at this stage. Medium 7th at a 53 overall. That's going to be a yikes from me, Captain. And for the rest of the OHL, Fawcett's certainly going to be next. Let's go for it. The overager, Ron Fawcett. Another medium bottom 6 player. Woof, this draft. I mean, we knew there wasn't going to be that much help in this draft. I certainly do recall that being the case now that I've been looking through the available players. And it didn't disappoint. It didn't disappoint. This has been hot garbage. As we're not going to go for Dwight Richardson. 18, 19, 18. All right, let's go for the two younger options. First up, Kyle Peterson from the Erie Otters is going to be the selection. Medium bottom 6 forward yet again. Boy, we're going to have a great fourth line in the future. And our final selection in this draft, very far off the board, but it's going to be Brendan Andrews from the Sarnia Sting. We know nothing about him. I'm going to guess low bottom 6. Medium bottom 6. Well, how do you like that? So all in all, an absolutely horrific draft for us in the grand scheme of things. Abysmal certainly comes to mind, but we knew that was coming, so it's cool. We get to the re-sign phase. Our head coach's deal is up. That could certainly cause some issues with this team. Time will tell. For the goaltenders, I think we'll re-sign Samson. We'll get Baldwin signed as well. No real reason to not just sign everybody here. So we'll sign Samson to a 1-year deal, and we'll get Baldwin signed, and he'll be just kind of a healthy scratch kicking around. Defensively, obviously Drysdale, Bales, Anderson, you know, these players are going to need to sign. Obviously, too, Drysdale's just going to get the big money deal. So with Bales, let's try to get him for slightly cheaper, even if it's only $200K. Anderson does not want to re-sign, so we'll go 1 year at $275. See if he's willing to accept that. So right now it's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then the AHL is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 with Cutler. So Bianconi signed. Garcia we're going to drop. Low 7th, Edwin Garcia, 7th round pick in 2030. Eddie Garcia is on the way out. Also, we'll be dropping Bradley McCult, who is just hot garbage. go ahead and drop him as well. So in terms of these top options, at least, we're going to go ahead and try to re-sign them. So Edgar Sasaki, AHL Defenseman of the Year. We'll see if he is willing to come back. And Vigilante as well is willing to come back. We'll see if we can get him signed up. For the right wingers, oh boy, let's just look at forwards in general. So Reed Neal finishes at a medium 9. Whoo, that contract though. Let's go 7x3. That's an expensive deal, though, for someone who's a middle 6 option for us. Harvey Brennan, I'd like to come back. He's been a staple on the 4th line. Hoffman, yeah, I figured he wouldn't be that expensive. McCauley, also still an option for us, depending on who our head coach is. Max Galad, now 31 years old. Gonna look to bring him back. And then you get into the question of who's actually worth keeping around to try and get to develop. I want to go to the bottom here first. Asham isn't going to make it. Elliot Asham's not going to make it. He's just not. 3rd round pick in 2030. Too low of an overall. At that age, you're gone, Mr. Asham. Then we have Caden Rosehill. 6th round pick in 2030. He is obviously going to be dropped as well. There is Edwards. Matthew Edwards. We'll give an opportunity to Edwards. 2nd round pick, 45th overall. We'll sign him up. And okay, it gets tricky from there based off of the amount of players signed. Let's advance a day, see what we get initially here. Baldwin signs, Neal rejects, Bales rejects, Vigilante signs, Sampson, McCauley rejected. Everybody else has accepted, which is nice. So for the goaltenders, we're good. Defensively, of course, Matthew Bales is just going to be difficult. It doesn't really surprise me. The key here for us in this re-sign phase is that a lot of players, at least, especially the forwards, are signing for pretty cheap. So we have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now Neal wants to re-sign, but if he's not willing to accept that, I'm just going to go 1 year and overpay him. So yeah, I'm with a 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12 with McCauley. If we can get him to sign. And the AHL in theory is 1, 2 with Pino. We'll go ahead and sign him. 3 with Maldine. Although he's not going to get that much better. I don't know about Comrie yet. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh boy, 9, 10. 11, 12. Okay, so we do have 12 forwards signed in theory. So Voros is gone. Manny Voros, 6th round pick in 2027. Very much on the way out. I think Boma as well. Just not going to make it. Tim Boma, 5th round pick in 2027. He is on the way out. And I think Goodbranson as well. He's 25. 5th round pick back in 2025. Robinson, Goodbranson on the way out. I think that means Comrie is likely to go here as well. 5th round pick in 2028. We'll see what happens with some of these other signings. As Neal accepts, Pino, Bales, McCauley, Maldine, everyone accepted there. Beautiful. So the final few deals, it's just Drysdale and Comrie. Hate to say it for Comrie. You know what? We'll re-sign Comrie for the hell of it. Maybe he'll take a step up. And then yet again, the rest of the money goes to one Jamie Drysdale. Every single time. Just pay him on a yearly basis. That way we don't get stuck into a major contract. That brings us down to just about $14 million in cap space. Good stuff there. So nice little bit of menu lag. Perhaps? No, I think it registered properly. Good. So I didn't re-sign the head coach. It's because I want to see who's out there on the market. And we could completely rework the coaching staff here, which we might have to. Of course, it's going to be a little bit time consuming. We do have some tremendous coaching options here. Now, what I want to double check, right? How well Milroy fits in. If we make him the interim head coach, 48 on the scheme fit. Ugh. And then what about Couturier? 40 on the scheme fit. Also, ugh. So if there's a defensive specialist, we could really be in the money here. Let me take a look. And it's only forward specialist. So we had Terry in before, who's incredible. And then there's Carney. Regardless, we don't get great fits for this team. Oh boy. What about Orpik? 45, 48. I mean, a 48 appears to be about as good of a scheme fit as we can get, because I don't think it's registering that, you know, the proper NHL or AHL are dynamic for us. So we really need a the best defensive coach that we can get at the NHL level here. And unfortunately, the defensive coach isn't going to be all that great. So our head coach this season, I mean, Milroy wasn't that great. I think we're going to drop Couturier. Back down to AHL head coach. So that way we can bring Therrien back. Hopefully he's willing to accept. If not, we're in a little bit of trouble. Just a bit. But the goal here is to get Therrien to accept and then fill out the rest of the coaching staff from there. I'll talk to you guys in a minute. We'll jump cut this. Alright, so we have arrived at the beginning of next season. I haven't fully set up the team yet. Did want to get you a look. We brought back Therrien as our head coach. So, I mean, you get a look here. 65 staff chemistry, not too bad. And, of course, just in general, some top-notch coaching, which is, of course, what we need to push this team over the edge. That brings me, though, to what this team is actually going to look like in terms of how we're going to set this up, although I am hitting all of the wrong buttons. So, obviously, chemistry-wise, it's not going to be picture-perfect, or what we're actually going to have it be for the start of the season. Just wanted to make sure we didn't have anybody signed or unsigned that we actually want to have under contract, which we don't. But going back to roster moves here, let's take a look. Goaltending-wise, it's going to be Lowe and Lennox. Torres kind of stumbles a bit despite a good season last year. He's not going to make it. Gene Torres is not going to make it as a big-time goaltender. You could argue maybe having him as a backup would have been the way to do it, but yeah, Gene's not going to make it. So, I mean, you want to talk about doubt and Howard Lowe. I don't blame you, but, I mean, we are stuck with Lowe and Lennox at this point. Defensively, Drysdale, Bales, Delmas, Anderson, McGrath, Suter, I think is going to step up and make this team. So I think Vigilante has lost his spot. I think we're going to go with Khalil Suter, unless there's a better chemistry option with Sasaki or Vigilante, which we can check out. And forward-wise, of course, we have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12 with Hoffman. I think, of course, really Max Galad and any of the 75s could make the team if they have better chemistry. But the key point here, you have Madsen and Cashman both at 91, Lehman at a 90, Othman at a 90, Merritt rocking an 88, as well as Carlton, Neal at an 87. Even Aiden Recchi, who was horrible in the playoffs, he goes up to an 84. Hayden Fowler at an 82. So there's some promise here. We're going to be able to put together a decent team. We're still going to be very top-heavy offensively, and the lack of development amongst some players is certainly proving to be costly. I think the issue right now is that we have no idea just how good or bad this team is going to be this season. I mean, we could end up being complete garbage this year. No real way to know until we get down to it. That said, let's take a look at the draft this year. So Sam DeVries won't be available to us, nor will Weeks, Kingston, Flint. So Rudy Hallweg. Man, I'm hitting all the wrong buttons right now. Apparently I'm rusty. I'll miss a couple of days. Been busy. And that's what happens. Rudy Hallweg, at least projected in the first round, as is Zach Payer. Actually, he's not on 32. Of course, this isn't an expansion franchise. So Payer's available as well. You have Barry, Sudbury, Peterborough, Saginaw, Clinton Staios available. Of course, we started off this series by drafting Nathan Staios. Could be his son at this point. Probably not. Oshawa, Peterborough, Sarnia with Rod Langkow. Goaltender, so promising. He's an overager. Good size, though, at 6'3". Rosten Newendike there as well. This draft is looking like it's going to be a little bit better than last year's, but that's really not that difficult to accomplish if you think about it. It's really not saying much. And as I say that, we go through this ridiculous stretch without finding anybody available to us. So Yeah, about that thought. Here's our first Windsor player finally. It's an overage of a goaltender who will be 20 by the time the draft happens. So yet again, it's not looking like we have much help coming from the draft. So the team that we have is the team that we have, and we have to hope that they are somehow, some way good enough to actually get the job done. Will that be the case? I have no idea.